All right, welcome. I am so excited to have Jessica join us today. So, Jessica is on her lunch break, so we're going to keep this really short and easy to watch, but hopefully really informative. So, Jessica, do you want to take a minute and tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, what you do?
Sure. Yeah. I am a mental health therapist. Then I work in an agency. So I work outside the home 40 to 45 hours a week. I am thankful that I can work close enough to home that I can come home for lunch, which lets me kind of check in with the kids and see how things have been going. I live and work in Southern West Virginia. And one of the things we're known for here is the poor state of our public school educational system. And that's one of the reasons that I homeschool.
Okay,
And
I
yeah.
was not aware of that. I'm in Canada, so I feel like I don't know anything about states. Okay, so the question I was going to ask was like, what made you get started on a like on your homeschooling journey?
So I would be what would be considered an accidental homeschooler. The son I just graduated, he has a December birthday. And so according to the way our state law was set up at that time, you had to be 5 by September 1st to start kindergarten, and he was not going to be able to start kindergarten
Mhm.
because he wouldn't have been 5 until December. So it was going to delay him a year in starting. When he was 4, he wanted to learn to read. He came to me and asked me to learn to read. And so I did some research and I taught him how to read, which was kind of amazing to teach this little person to do this, right? And I thought, well, that wasn't so hard. So maybe we'll just homeschool kindergarten, right? He's ready, he's asking for it, and it'll be another year to year and a half before he can go into the public school system. And so I talked to my husband, and we have a small homeschool community here. And so I talked to my homeschool mentor, and she helped me get started. And so the intent was to homeschool him for kindergarten. We just graduated him. So, yeah,
And as they say, the rest is history.
right.
Okay, so I know you work full time outside the home. We get tons of questions about that. So when did you realize like this was something you could do, work outside the home while homeschooling?
Well, yeah, when I initially started, and I have two boys. When I initially started, I was a stay-home mom. And so from my oldest son's kindergarten to fourth grade years, I was a stay-home mom at homeschooling. And then my husband, he experienced some cutbacks at work. And it became apparent that I was going to have to go back to work.
Mhm.
And so when I started working again, I was an independent contractor. So I could set my own schedule. So that's how I started. And I did that for about a year and a half. And I realized this isn't so hard
Mhm.
because I was able to let go of the idea of school hours.
Yeah.
School can be done anywhere, anytime. And so once I was able to grasp that, the
Mhm.
idea of working and homeschooling became a lot easier. And at that point, I went back to work full time outside the home.
Yeah. That was a huge like eye opener for me too, because I started much like you, a stay-at-home mom, then I went to working outside the home. So I went straight into like outside the home. And at first I was like, I don't know how to do this. But once I
Mhm.
realized, oh, wait, they're learning when they're not even with me, that was huge, right? Huge. I
It's
was like,
big.
it's
Yeah.
like a huge freedom of like letting go.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. When you have this realization that it's not, it doesn't all depend on me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's huge.
Yeah. And then there was a period of time in their lives where I just kind of wasn't happy with where I was in my career
Mhm.
and realized I would need to probably go to graduate school to kind of get to where I was trying to go. And so I did enroll them for 2 years. So my oldest son would have been sixth and seventh grade because he did so well in homeschooling, he tested out of fifth grade. And so he tested into actually seventh grade, but I held him back to sixth grade. And so he did sixth and seventh grade in a small private school while I went to graduate school. And I gave him the option once I graduated of did he want to continue in the school or did he want to come back to homeschool? And he chose homeschooling. And his reasons for choosing homeschooling was that he could work ahead if he wanted to. There was no drama that he would have to worry about, and he could work at his own pace. So we did that. And so he came back to homeschool in eighth grade and went the rest of the way through.
I love that because I find so many people have this mentality that they can do one or the other. You can homeschool or public school, which is, I mean, at the same time, obviously true, but you can come in and out. Like I always say, the
Mhm.
choice you make is not forever. When life
No.
changes, if you need to, for whatever reason, or maybe you just need a break. Like I've never been one
Mhm.
of those people that homeschooling's the only way. It's like, no, whatever works for your family. So I love that you shared that.
And I absolutely agree with that mentality that you're saying. And my younger son, he's going into ninth grade in the fall, and he wants to try the public school system. So we're going to have him do a year next year of the virtual public school system, so he can see how that feels. And like you said, it's not forever.
Right.
And if it doesn't work, we'll do something else. And if it does work, great, and we'll keep going. But really, no need to stress it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I grabbed some questions from the community. So inside the coffee club, I asked people because I was like, hey, I'm going to interview Jessica. She has a short time. What do you want to hear? So
Mm.
here are the questions. If there's anything you're like, I don't know, I have to think about it and come back to it, you're more than welcome to jump into the coffee club and answer. So the
Okay.
first question was about your son who you just graduated. They said, do they have any post-grad plans? People still assume homeschoolers can't get into college or succeed in life outside of the home.
Yes, he does have post graduation plans. He applied to and was accepted into multiple colleges, and then had the task of trying to choose a college to attend. So he knows already what area he wants to major in and how he plans to accomplish that. He qualified for multiple scholarships through taking the SAT, and his future is set.
Awesome. That's exciting. Yeah, neither of my kids wanted to go into college, although one works at a college, but not the same. Okay, so what opportunities did they get to take advantage of because they were homeschooled that wouldn't have been possible otherwise? So the idea that they asked about was like athletics or performing arts or professional experiments, anything like that.
Okay, so the my oldest son, who I just graduated, he was very involved in the martial arts community. And so he was able to go as far with this as he wanted to. There was nothing in his way, no scheduling conflicts or, thinking about, oh, I have to get my homework done, things like that. So he was able to do that. Also, he was able to go to work when he was old enough to do so, which was very important to him. And so he's already been working for well over a year. And in addition to when he was younger, having multiple opportunities to go on tours and to experience things that a lot of public schoolers wouldn't be able to do.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, especially the conflict of like school hours, right?
Right. Or the idea of the school year. And so
Yes,
when you homeschool, that doesn't apply.
right.
And so, right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, this question comes up a lot. How did you make graduation special if that was something he wanted to do? A lot of, we see this on Facebook all the time. They get that sense of loss when they're seeing all these graduation photos or, whatever. Even though we realize like our kids are getting the best experience for them in education, sometimes they feel kind of sad. So, did you guys make graduation special or anything like that?
Well, my son is not super concerned with big celebrations, never really has been. I did what I could to make it special, keeping that in mind. And so we did like a big cookout, and I had this banner with his name on it, and I got him a diploma. And, we went on he and I went on a trip of
Oh,
his choosing. And so that's kind of how we rounded it out.
I love that because I have the same. Well, my oldest graduated during COVID. So whatever we wanted to plan didn't happen. And he is like, I don't want anything. I made him get graduation photos because I was like, I did all this work. I want photo proof. So he agreed to do that. But yeah, he was really
That's
quiet.
funny.
Yeah.
I did insist on senior year photos.
Yeah.
And so we got those done in the fall. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I want proof for all the work I did.
Hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so when you work full time outside the home and homeschool, the one question we always get is, what do you do with your kids?
Well, something I think that would be different for me that may not apply to all families is when I started, they were younger. They were, I want to say 8 and 10. And I did have to rely on like a system of babysitters. So I had like 5 people that I rotated them through. So they were never at the same place too often. And those relationships were able to stay intact. And so that's what we did when they were younger. And then when they came back out of school to homeschool, once I finished graduate school, they were pretty much old enough to be left with a list
Mhm.
and for me to just be checking in. When we first came back home, I utilized technology a lot. And so I would FaceTime, I would call, I would use the Alexa. I required them to take pictures of their work and send it to me. I would have them record discussions and send it to me, and then I would respond to those discussions. And always keeping in mind, as a homeschooler who works full time, being mindful of where my job was and can I pop in during the day. And thankfully, I have been able to do that.
I love that. I love that. I use so much of the same thing, but I hired a sitter because mine were kind of like the same thing. And then when they got older, we did like, they knew when my breaks were. I checked in on all my breaks. We did video calls, we did phone calls, we did if you get stuck, this is what you need to do until I get home. So yeah, having those systems in place are so important. And it's not impossible. I find you just have to be really creative.
Right. It requires a certain amount of tweaking, and that will be highly individualistic to what fits your family the best.
Yes, exactly. Okay, what advice would you give to others who are considering or starting this journey?
I would say trust yourself and trust your child. Your school does not have to look like any other school. You cannot possibly teach everything.
Mhm.
So don't stress that. There will be gaps in the school system, there will be gaps in the homeschool. The best thing you can do is teach your child how to learn so that if they need to know something, they know how to find that information.
Yes. Yes, so important. Okay, so you're a member of the coffee club or the Working Homeschool Mom Coffee Club membership, which is way too long. So that's why we call it the coffee club. How do you feel that this community has contributed to you helping you work and homeschool in this journey?
Oh my gosh, it has helped me so much because where I live, I don't know a single other homeschooling parent who works outside of the home.
Mhm.
And so coming to find this group was extremely helpful to me because it helped me to see that, well, some of the things I was struggling with, others are struggling with, and we can like brainstorm ways to overcome some barriers and also figuring out the best ways to do scheduling or how to outsource appropriately and things like that.
Yes, exactly.
Lot, Lots of support through that community. And I really appreciate that.
Yay, I'm glad. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your really busy schedule today to talk with us and share your story with us. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure.